Hey guys, so for anyone that has the MORryde Independent Suspension, it gives you an option to raise your trailer an inch from how they set it at the factory. Right now my nose is a little bit higher than I would want to, so I'm trying to level out the whole trailer a little bit. So I'm going to kind of check it out, see what's involved in lifting the entire trailer 1 inch, so not too much. It's pretty much your only option. There's some extra holes in one of the mounting brackets that allow you to raise the whole trailer an inch. So this should allow me to have the trailer set a little bit more level. For anyone that has any of the newer trucks, they're coming taller and taller just straight from the factory. No lifts or anything like that. They're just coming a little bit taller. So this will help it kind of level the trailer out. And yeah, let's go check it out and see what's involved in that. Okay, so to start off, I've got the trailer fairly level with just the front hydraulic jacks on, not the rears, just the front, and then that's all I've done so far. So if you look under here, let's see what we got under here. So here's the assembly, and on the back side is 4 bolts, 1, 2, and then 3, 4. Okay, and then you'll see some extra set of holes right here. So we're gonna drop those bolts into this other hole. So we're gonna lower the rubber spring on this bracket, which is gonna raise the trailer an inch. So in actuality, I mean, really, so we just gotta, you know, it's 4 bolts. I gotta jack the trailer up from the frame, remove the tires, and it looks fairly straightforward, but it could be quite opposite of that. We're about to find out. So yeah, so the first thing we're gonna do, we'll jack it up onto from the frame rail. And remember, it's independent suspension, so there's no axle per se that goes across. Each side, each wheel has its own suspension components, so independent of all the others. So we got to relieve the pressure off of each wheel, and that'll allow us to drop it into the extra bolt holes on that hanger. So yeah, let's get started. I'll kind of walk you through the steps. I've never done this before. You know, full disclaimer, you know, I don't know if this is the, you know, preferred method from MORryde, but I did talk with them about this before doing it, and you know, that way I kind of had an idea of what the process was going to be like. So yeah, let's go through the steps and see what we got when we're getting in there. Okay, so tools wise, not too much involved or required. So I have a couple jacks. I've got a Pro Eagle 3-ton jack, which is good for you know, any off-road vehicles, anything where you need some high lifting applications, because it has this adapter here. It can help get you extra height, especially because, I mean, the frame of the trailer is already 2 feet off the ground. So I need to go at least 2 feet before I even get to being able to lift the trailer even an inch. So and I'm probably gonna need to lift the trailer at least probably 5 or 6 inches in order to get the suspension to, you know, release and to get the wheels off the ground, so I can remove the wheels. So this hopefully should help me with that. I'm about to find out. We've got another just standard jack, just in case if I need help lowering the whole assembly once I undo those 4 bolts I showed you earlier. I've got an impact gun for the lug nuts, 22mm for my application. Yours may be different, so, you know, make sure you guys are you know, checking out what you need for there. Not required, but definitely helps a ton. Just, you don't have to worry about trying to, you know, be cranking on some lever. Then I have a smaller impact gun for those 4 bolts that I showed you. This one is a 9/16 I believe, for my installation. I've got some 12-ton jack stands that go up to about just over 28 inches. That may not be enough to get the trailer high enough, so I've got some blocks here, some 4x6s that I can put the jack stands on top of to get some extra 4 inches of height. So and then I just have a little dolly pad that I can lay on to make things easier. Not required. You can just get a piece of cardboard to lay on, or just lay on the ground. So Not too many tools required, mainly jack stands, a jack, a couple sockets, and I think that's all I'm gonna need. But yeah, let's start lifting this thing up and figure it out. Before I forget to mention it as well, always want to make sure you chalk the opposite side that you're working on. So I'm going to start with the left driver's side first. So I've chalked both the front and the rear wheel on the opposite side, so on the right hand side. So I've got my front one and my rear. They are securely in place. That way it'll just keep anything from shifting or moving slightly. So just make sure you guys do that, very important. Okay, so I'm on my frame rail. You can see with this extension too, I've just barely started to lift the jack and I'm already touching my frame, so that's why this helps. So that'll give me a lot of leverage to lift this up more. So let me start jacking this up and try to get to a good point to where my wheels are off the ground. Okay, so I'm now on the jack stand only, not on the jack. You can see I'm moving the jack around. So right now, as I have it, the rear two are off. So this one's off the ground, this one's off the ground, this one's just barely touching. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna jack it up a little bit and put another jack stand in the front here. And that'll allow me to have this one off the ground too. Okay, so I got my other jack stand on the frame, and I now have 3 wheels all off the ground. So now we take the lug nuts off the wheel. Okay guys, back the next day, ready for more. I think I got the process down now, so it should be much quicker. So yeah, now I can run through kind of start to finish, you know, what the process is. So yeah, let's start from step 1, right? So first, you know, I've already got it jacked up, you know, all that stays the same. What we want to do now is just remove the lug nuts. Okay, lug nuts are off. Now we remove the wheel, of course. Okay, wheel is off. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove this the beam assembly to the rubber spring first. So it's 1, 2, and then 2 more bolts down here. So I'm gonna remove those first. Okay, so these will take a mix of just like a 9/16 wrench, because it's a tight space, so I can't get the impact gun there. But you know, they're not very tight, so it's pretty easy to do. I can use the impact on these lower ones because I have more clearance, but 9/16 wrench gets the job done. Let's get these loose. Okay, so I've got the nuts off the back here. These bolts won't come out all the way, but they will just pull out enough to where they're not on the rubber spring anymore. So you don't have to take them all the way out, don't worry about that. You don't have to cut them off or anything. Just pull them out so they're you know, enough clearance to where they're not in the rubber spring here, and that's all you need to do there, and then that will be just fine. So remember, there's a lot of torsion on this spring too. So you can see from the angle here, it's actually twisted, and that's creating the torsion on the rubber spring. When this is not attached, this will straighten out, so it's level. So that's how much torsion's on it so far. So you want to be careful when you're removing these bottom 2 bolts, because when you remove the last one, it's gonna spring out to where it's straight again. So just be careful with that. Okay, so I'm gonna remove these bottom 2 now. Okay, got the nuts out. Here's what I mean. You can kind of see that so there's a lot of torsion on these right now. So you just want to be careful when you're loosening these up. Go. Okay, those bolts are out. So, see what I mean now? So you see how this straightened out? Remember, it was kind of torsioned and twisted before? So this is fully separated from the I-beam, or not the I-beam, the beam assembly. So now I'm gonna remove this entirely with the 4 bolts that were on the back side from before. Okay. So, first let's get the nuts off here on the 4. Two, and so these 4 bolts is the only thing holding this rubber spring on. So just don't remove your bolts yet, because that's I mean, it's not super heavy, but you just don't want it, you know, just dropping, flopping on the ground there. Okay. All right. All 4 are out now. So take the bolts out. 1, 2, and let's see. So I'm just gonna take this bolt out and then try to lower the spring a little bit. There we go. All right, so now I'm in the bottom 2 holes here, and just put the nuts back on there just so the bolts don't slide out. Bottom bolts here. Again, put the nuts on just so nothing falls out here. I'm not gonna fully tighten these. I'm just gonna kind of snug them up a little bit. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I have the jack placed under the hub here on the disc brake rotor, and I'm gonna jack this up, which is gonna raise this I-beam assembly to hopefully line up this bolt hole with this hole here. So the rubber spring is not going to move. I'm just trying to get one of these in place as my starting point. And you want to do that. I tried with the bottom first yesterday. That didn't go well. So what I found out that actually worked fairly well yesterday is to line up this top right bolt hole first. Just because, you know, as you can see, this is going to come up in an arc, and this is going to kind of start to line up directly with this, and then I'll show you the next steps for lining up the other holes. That's where it gets a little tricky, but not too bad. So yeah, let's do that now. Okay, so I'm gonna jack it up slowly. You can see it's getting closer. Pretty close to my hole there. I'm a little high. Okay, so the height is good, but I'm a little, I don't know if you can see, my rubber spring needs to be a little bit to the left. So I'm just gonna grab a little bar here. So I got this bar, and I got it wedged between the frame and the rubber spring here. I'm just gonna kind of press on it just a little bit. Hopefully you guys can kind of see this. Just enough, you know, I'm just barely, there we go. Now my bolt's in. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a nut on the back of this guy just to make sure that that bolt doesn't accidentally back out. Kind of got it like hand tightened a little bit there, but I want that a little bit tighter. So just so I know it's not gonna come out anymore. I'm not gonna do too much, just enough to where the bolt is fully through the nut, at least a little bit. Okay, so that's all. So I got the one starting point. So now, that also, up until this point, is all fairly easy, straightforward. But now here's where it gets tricky. So you want to lower your jack so you're not holding up anything. And then what we're gonna do now is, so we need to get our spring lifted, like twisted up to line up with this bolt hole. You know, because this is at an angle, but my rubber spring here is straight, so I need to twist my spring so that this hole on the back side of my rubber spring here gets twisted up to line up with this. So there's kind of two things happening here. So I'm gonna jack up from the bottom of this bottom left corner sticking out of the rubber spring, and it's gonna twist it upwards. At the same time, eventually the jack will run into this as well and start pushing this up at the same time, and it will kind of help align things a little bit. You kind of got to play with the exact position of the jack, just to make sure that you're, you know, getting at the edge of this. So you want to be more on the spring that you can and less on here. But so I'm going to try to move this just about there and start to jack up here. Just about like that. See that? So I'm just kind of on the edge here, but hopefully not touching this as much. So then I'm gonna start to jack this up. Okay. So jacking it up. So see how that's starting to get lined up right here? So a little bit more. Oh, so the rubber pad kind of slipped off the jack slipped off the rubber pad. So I'll go a little bit more on this time. Go, looking good. A little bit more. Yeah, it's almost there. That's what I mean. It's like it's kind of like a tricky game to get everything aligned. It's pretty close. It's not quite there, but don't drop your tools. It's like close enough to where I think I can like start to kind of thread it in, and it should start grabbing. Yeah, it's trying. There we go. So let's get a nut on the back of this guy. Sorry, I need both my hands here, guys. You can see that. I've got both the bolts in, both the nuts started on just the top. And you'll see that it's almost starting to line up on the bottom here as well. And it's kind of what you want to do to line up the bottom holes. It's the same kind of procedure. I'm actually going to lower this a little bit. Okay, now is what I'm going to do. Now, those holes are almost lined up on the bottom, but not quite. I'm going to start jacking it up just from the hub here. Let's see if that does anything. It's not really going the way I want to. Nope. It's close. So my holes are so close, but I can't quite get them aligned. Yesterday worked pretty well. Okay, I think I got it. So I just jacked up under the hub here, and it looks pretty lined up with my hole. Super close. Oh, it's so close, guys. What about this one? I just need to get like one of them kind of started in here. I just lower this just a tiny bit. Try to force it in there. There, that one's in. This other one is so close. Just kind of got to move this around a little bit to try to get it into position. There we go. Okay, guys. 4 bolts are in. Let's put nuts in those before anything comes out. Just snugging them up. I'm not tightening them all the way yet. And now I'm going to snug up these top 2 that I had earlier. Snug up the rest of these in the back here. Okay, that one's done. So I haven't torqued anything yet on either one. I'm just gonna go through, there's the 8 bolts on each one that we just removed and reinstalled. So I'm gonna do this 3rd wheel, and then I will go through and torque each of the 8 bolts at that time. But just whatever your method is, if you wanna torque them now, torque them later, just make sure you don't forget to retorque those. These 9/16 bolts are torqued to 40 foot-pounds. So that's what those are torqued to. So 40 foot-pounds for the rubber spring bolts and nuts. And then depending on what your lug nuts are, mine are 9/16, they'll get torqued to 120 foot-pounds. But definitely make sure that whatever yours are, you know, if you have 9/16, torque them to 120. Another common size is 5/8, I believe, and those are torqued to 150 foot-pounds. I think 9/16 is a little more common, but double check what you have. Make sure to torque them to the correct spec. Remember, so each one is 40 foot-pounds. So I got my torque wrench set to 40. Remember, I left them loose. I just kind of snugged up some of the sides. Just kind of start to even them out a little bit. There's 30 and 40. Just go through, do each of those. Okay, guys, this side is done. I got it all torqued up. I'm about to put the wheels back on. I've also got some new lug nuts here. Should be much better. Now my wheels are ready to go back on. For the one side, I still have to do the other side, but this side will be fully complete, which will be nice. So yep, let's get the wheels on, get them torqued up, and be good to go. Now, since I technically raised the trailer an inch, I'll probably have to lift the hub up slightly. You should always start your lug nuts by hand so you don't get any cross threading, especially if you're going to be using an any kind of power tools, if I can talk. Remember, when you put your wheels on, you always want to put them in a star pattern, like a crisscross pattern, when you're tightening everything. So don't go like bam, 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 bam. You're gonna go like a crossed. That way it kind of keeps the torque even. So I kind of got them just tightened up a little bit. Then I lowered the wheel onto the ground, and the proper torque for these, which are 9/16 lug nuts, is 120 foot-pounds. So I got my torque wrench set to 120 foot-pounds. And again, I'm going to go in this star pattern, kind of crisscross. So don't go in a circle, go crisscross. Okay guys, it is complete. About to hook it up for the first time after the 1-inch height. So obviously it's going to pretty much look identical, but when it's hooked up to the truck, then it should sit a little more level. So got the truck, got the trailer. Let's get her all hooked up. All right, she is done. I'm about to go take it for a quick test drive, see how she does. I need to go sync up my TPMS sensors that I installed as well. So I gotta stop by the tire shop. They're just a couple miles away from here. But yeah, I'm excited. It's nice to have it complete. Sits a little more level now. I'll have to measure it to see exactly where it's at, but it's looking much better than before. I also took a 1-inch block out of the rear of the truck, so inch higher on the trailer, inch lower on the truck. So sitting much more level now. So all right, hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know if you have any questions, and if you guys ever want to give it a shot yourselves, it's doable, but yeah, just definitely time consuming. All right, I'll see you guys later.